What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I am Ryan Thomas, bringing you another edition of the Thomas Take. Today, I got the news that Khabib Nurmagomedov would be taking on Tony Ferguson in a UFC interim lightweight title fight. And I gave my take on that, my reaction on that, what it could mean for Conor McGregor, what it could mean for Nate Diaz, what it could mean for the big marquee matchups within the UFC. And tonight I also want to talk about the newest Buffalo Bill. That is not Sean McDermott anymore. That is new defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier, the former head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. He coached in Minnesota from 2011, 2012, and 2013, and has been a defensive coordinator for quite some time. This signals the end. Without a doubt, there was, the signal of the end for the 3-4 defense under the Rex Ryan era that ended as soon as Rex Ryan was fired. But this signals the start of a 4-3, but legitimacy in the 4-3, within the 4-3. Bringing in a guy like Leslie Frazier, who is a former player, a guy that knows the X's and O's of a 4-3 defense, the intricacies of a 4-3 defense, the simplicities of a 4-3 defense. I'm very excited to see what Leslie Frazier brings to the table as the new Bills defensive coordinator. I'm really excited to see what Sean McDermott brings to the Bills defense as a longtime defensive coordinator. I'm happy that the Bills are building their team around the defensive side of the ball, because that's what they were lacking in the 2 years that Rex Ryan was the head coach. For God knows why, he was the defensive mastermind, but he just couldn't seem to get it right. He just couldn't seem to put the pieces in place that the Bills need in order to become a competitive team. Now, Leslie Frazier, as I mentioned, former player, former coach, head football coach for the Vikings, former corner for the Chicago Bears. Not that long, only played in the league for 4 years, but as soon as he was retired, he was the head coach at Trinity International University from 1988 to 1996. He was the defensive backs coach at the University of Illinois for 2 years, the defensive backs coach for the Philadelphia Eagles from 1999 to 2002. That is the common coaching tree within Philadelphia. Philadelphia had Leslie Frazier as the defensive backs coach, while Sean McDermott was the assistant to Andy Reid and basically like a defense quality control coach type guy. Leslie Frazier was in Cincinnati as the defensive coordinator under Marvin Lewis, defensive assistant for the Colts in 2005, assistant head coach in 2006 for the Colts, defensive coordinator for the Vikings, assistant head coach, then interim head coach, then head coach, then defensive coordinator for the Bucs, secondary coach for the Ravens for the last 2 years, and actually for last season, 2016, and now he will be a defensive coordinator for the Bills. More so, he is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. So that says something to me about where, his coaching pedigree and his playing pedigree was at that point. Even though he didn't play too long, he was a part of something special. So, that being said, he was a part of the 85 Bears. His last season was the 85 Bears season. The season in which Buddy Ryan was the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. There's a common thread there. Very interesting stuff, though. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. He is a guy that's been around for a long time. Obviously, I expect to see a huge shift in accountability. I expect to see a huge shift in just attitude within the organization, which is so overdue. It doesn't even have anything to do with Rex Ryan. It has to do with Rex Ryan and before Rex Ryan with Doug Marrone, which I'll get to that a little bit later. But the attitude of this team needs to change. The culture of this team needs to change. And I'm seeing it change right now with hires like Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier. I really hope that these guys do their best with the Buffalo Bills, put in their best work as members of the Bills so this Bills team can continue to win. The question is, though, on the biggest position in sports in the sport for football is the quarterback position. What will the Bills do? Will they let go of Tyrod Taylor? Will they keep him? Only time will tell. But if it's any consolation, the reports linking Mike McCoy to the Bills, Norv Turner to the Bills, Bill Musgrave to the Bills, the former Oakland Raiders offensive coordinator that was fired, shockingly fired. I did not expect that at all. I didn't hear about it till late last night. I thought, wow, didn't Oakland's offense do good when Derek Carr was playing? That's a little weird. I don't know what to make of that. But, given that the offensive coordinator position is still open, what type of offense does Sean McDermott foresee on this Bills team? And how will that impact who he hires, and how will that impact the actual depth chart of the Buffalo Bills offense? It'll be very interesting to see what happens with these hires. Hopefully, it works out for the best. Now, I wanted to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit tonight as well. They announced that they were hiring the interim head coach as their now head coach, one Doug Marrone. And Doug Marrone is the former Buffalo Bills head coach, coached the team for 2 years, had an opt-out clause in his contract due to the fact that the Bills would have new ownership within that season. And he took the option. He bolted. He left. He said, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm going to get out of here while I still can. He goes to Jacksonville, becomes the offensive line coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, when in those years as their offensive line coach, their offensive line was one of the worst in the National Football League. And the man that hired Gus Bradley, the man that hired Doug Marrone, was Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley gets fired, and they decide to promote the guy that Gus Bradley hired? That doesn't make much sense to me. Oddly enough, they also hired former New York Giants head coach and the former two-time Super Bowl champ, actually three-time Super Bowl champ, Tom Coughlin. And when I first saw that too, I was like, okay, they hired Marrone, then Coughlin. And then I read that it was Coughlin's decision to bring in Marrone, given that they have common ties. When Coughlin was the Giants head coach, Marrone was the Syracuse head coach, so they had ties together. They both Syracuse guys. That's Tom Coughlin's alma mater. So they had ties together. So that's why they're saying, the media is saying, that Tom Coughlin brought in Doug Marrone, and Tom Coughlin will have more control over the whole operation than what Doug Marrone will have as the head coach. So basically, even though Doug Marrone is the head coach, he's more of an assistant to Tom Coughlin. This is Tom Coughlin's team. It's just so ass backwards. It's so weird. It's already appeared to me as if it's going to be a shit show based on the press conference today, where a reporter bravely asked Doug Marrone if he was going to quit on this team, much like he did the Bills, and Marrone was just completely caught off guard, and Tom Coughlin looked kind of mad as well, and kind of smiled and shook his head. You can just tell that this is just not going to work. And within a year or two, I would not be shocked if Marrone got fired and the organization just said, hey, Tom Coughlin, you want to stop by and join us? That would not shock me at all. The fact that Doug Marrone even got this job in the first place, I find it to be very disturbing. The fact that a guy that pretty much took the easy way out got another shot as the head coach. And it's really not a surprise, because the Jacksonville Jaguars have been a joke of a franchise virtually since Tom Coughlin left. And now that Tom Coughlin's back, they're trying to maintain some sort of illusion of, false hope, much like the Bills have the last 20 years, and bring in these coaches with this owner that has a long ponytail down to his butt. It just looks ridiculous. Like the ponytail obviously looks ridiculous, but their franchise looks so bad with the decisions that they've made in hiring Marrone and Tom Coughlin. It looks very unorganized. It looks very just abnormal compared to the cookie-cutter way of running a sports franchise. The owner hires the GM hires the coach coaches the players that the GM brings in to fit the coach's scheme. And then the owner oversees it and uses his analysis to basically dictate who's staying and who's going. And to have Tom Coughlin, David Caldwell, and Doug Marrone, it's just it's a shit show. That's what it is. It would be called a dumpster fire much like Jim Trotter said. It's one of those reasons too. Like the reason why I feel like this is just insane is because of Doug Marrone's attitude. He cowers to questions by the media. He acts miserable constantly. He doesn't act like he's enjoying himself. I almost get the hint that he is just a miserable human being. And when the Bills hired him, I laughed. They said that he was a respectable coach. The journalists in Syracuse did not respect him at all. The fans did not respect him at all, regardless of whether he went 25-25. Like, that's some great record. The people of Syracuse, the fans of the Orangemen, thought that he was a joke, that he was a jerk, pretty much. And the Bills hire him based on the fact that he went 25-25 as the Orangemen head coach. He comes in here, says that he's going to do this and that, and for a little bit they did see success. But then he takes the first chance he can to quit. That's not a guy I would bring in as my next head coach. To Jacksonville, good luck.